Hello and welcome back to Aston Martin and welcome to the Circuit of the Americas. We won't talk about last race. I mean, if you want to watch it and you haven't done so already, the link's in the description below, but be prepared. One saving grace is, though, if I remember rightly, season 1, the one race where our drivers decided to be utterly useless, was Canada, and then season 2, Canada was our team best result with Mick second and Pierre third, if I remember rightly. So I'll be paying attention to Japan next year, that's for certain. Right now, America. 100 points exactly behind Mercedes after scoring nothing last race. Meanwhile, Alpine over 100 behind us still, despite that. So, frankly, the fights are between McLaren and Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri and Haas. They've got their own one. Everyone else pretty much probably going to end where they are right now, I would imagine. Unless Williams pulls something massive out of the bag in the last couple of weeks either. It's 6v7 and 8v9. Quite frankly, the last 4 races of this season, constructors-wise, quite dull. Driver-wise, I mean, who was to be second? Perez, 27 points ahead of Sainz, 9 points ahead of Hamilton, 8 points ahead of Leclerc, 5 points ahead of Pierre, who should in theory be up there now fighting for these upper positions. So we did get a little bit of taste of what this car is capable of last week before things went horribly wrong. Honestly, this fight is about to be interesting. And Mick could very much get in the fight with, well, Esteban, I guess, unless he has a couple of massive results. Fernando's out of touch as well. But that's it. Nothing else to talk about. Just a whole lot of stuff to be reproduced in between these 2 races from all the stuff that broke last weekend. That was it. Just manufacturing things we broke. I'll see you for qualifying. Okay, so roughly where they were last time round, actually, pretty much. Pierre got hindered in his actual fastest stint at the end there, but did get one good lap in by the end of it, but the tyres probably weren't possibly as good as they could have been at that stage, so expect Pierre to do a little bit better in qualifying. Mick, 9th isn't bad. There's a few penalties going around, most notably to Max, so it should make the race interesting. Don't forget, Pierre's likely going to have to take penalties here, but 100%. I'm almost tempted not to run him again, but the cut-off point is only about half a second behind. It depends on not track grip if it actually matters or not here, because it's only saying normal at the moment, and the track rubber overall is low, so I don't know if they're going to get much faster. We do know these lot are capable of just popping up another 4/10 out of nowhere. I can see Norris, Bottas, Ocon all behind us, so they have all got the potential, particularly Norris, because you can see Ricciardo ahead of us, so I suspect Norris has got a lot more in hand, but yeah, wouldn't be surprised by this bottom 5 being the bottom 5. Doohan was basically the only person in any of the practices to crash and crash out of a practice. So he might have car damage, which is what's going on there. But you can see 1 round of tyres, 20%, 3 laps effectively. Looks like Norris has already gone then. That's why his tyres suddenly got better there. But of course, everyone's going to go again, so you can never be too sure. If we were sort of maybe in the Ricciardo Sainz bracket, wouldn't bother. I wouldn't bother. But the fact that they're both on the cusp of sort of 1 second off Verstappen and they're only 1.5, you can't be too sure. There was one practice session where Magnussen was ahead of us, so well, as ever, we'll wait to see that Red Bull get out of the way. I think we've actually ended up ahead of the Red Bull there. Oh no, that's it up the road. Oh, cool. Well, Mick's run's ruined there. He's literally in the tailpipe of Williams. I hope he backs off during the outlap here, or overtakes him. One of the two. They really need to make manual mode a little bit easier to understand in qualifying as well, because I daren't risk it. Yeah, so Mick's ruined basically because he's still behind that Williams. In fact, he might overtake him on the straight here. He had a look. I mean, Pierre's gone faster in this first sector. I suspect Mick won't. Yeah, he's actually backed off him by the looks of things. Norris did indeed go faster. Pierre doesn't even do a faster middle sector. Tsunoda improves and gets out of the bottom 5. Stroll, I don't know if Stroll does improve, but he's still 14th. So I think we're fine then, basically, is the point there. Albon doesn't improve, interestingly, so he stays behind Tsunoda. Gasly goes 6th. Mick was stuck behind a Williams, so that kind of made everything completely irrelevant. Bottas goes faster than Mick. Just the 2 Haas then. Haas goes 14th, Vettel goes 14th, Magnussen goes 14th. Both Haas's out of the bottom 5. Interesting. Happy America Day, I guess. I did take the penalties on Pierre, by the way. Oh, so we use those tyres again then? Just realised I wasn't in the middle there. Apologies. Vettel should be far enough up the road not to be a problem. Just in case anyone comes out now is the issue. We're all good. Okay, so on used tyres, 134.1. I don't know how good that is, but notably ahead of the Haas's, who also did it on used tyres. In fact, I don't think anyone is doing their time on new tyres. Are we going to get in the way of some of these people? No. All right. Mick was half a tenth slower, blimey. Gasly faster than Sainz. Mick only marginally slower than Alonso, but we'll get those new tyres on both. I don't really know why I'm trying with Gasly, actually thinking about it, because he's going to be back of the grid. I think there's one other person who hasn't. Why are they not going again? Oh, they are. They just haven't crossed the line yet. Okay, so Mick needs to find 2/10 on new tyres to get into the top 10. Okay, so first driver's coming out. again. This is what I should do. I should just hover on the actual pit lane of the people I think are going to be a problem. As soon as I see Gasly's car come out. It's worth saying again here that I don't think soft tyres are going to make much difference in the race because they're only good for 10 laps to begin with. Just trying to get the soft tyres to do enough laps to actually get feedback in practice sessions. You have to run them to almost 25% effectively. We'll go on board with Mick for this flying lap when it gets to it. He's in a very good spot, only the Haas is behind. Ocon's got a lot to prove as well in 15th right now. I suspect hindrance, but rounding the final corner for Mick and across the line. So off we go onto the flying lap. Gasly ahead on the road, very far ahead of the road actually. You can see him top of the hill there, just cresting it. Everyone across the line, plenty of time, everyone across the line. Not quite sure where the sector lines are in COTA actually, but I suspect after this S's section, Gasly's across for a better first sector as you do expect on brand new tyres that haven't already lost 20% of their goodness. So first people just crossing the line. Hamilton goes fast. I mean, it's Q2. Hamilton goes fastest of all. It'll be Russell next by the looks of things. And we will have to wait for Hamilton to get all the way around again just because he crossed the line with enough of a lap to go again. But Russell goes third temporarily, only 0.2 or so slower than Hamilton. Gasly, we haven't got across the second sector line. Faster in the second sector. Mick's turning onto that from the main straight into the final sector. Faster for Mick as well, as you would expect. You would expect everyone to improve a reasonable amount here. Sainz up to 6th, Norris up to 7th again, ahead of Gasly. Bottas ahead of Gasly into 8th. The Red Bulls go first and second once more. Massively so. Ricciardo up to 7th. That's fantastic work from Ricciardo. Alonso up to 9th, puts Gasly out temporarily. Ocon only 12th. Gasly has crossed the line, goes to 7th, pushes Bottas out. Mick 13th. Well, that was somewhat depressing in the end, but Vettel and Magnussen stay 14th, 15th, however. And the gap to 10th remained about 2/10 actually for Mick. So whilst he improved, so did everyone else by the same margin. And we just wait for Hamilton to get back across the line again to finish this all off. There we go. Bit of a shame there. I might just run Pierre the once in this session, just because he's already into it now, so he's not going to beat Max, so there's not really much point. We're just sort of making sure they stayed ahead of these other people with penalties. So I might keep these two sets of tyres at a relative level of competency, just in case. So I'll just do one flying lap with Pierre. There's not really much point, because I know he's taken those penalties already. Just let all this lot burn a set of 20% off their one set of their tyres. Pretty much as was at the end of the last session. Okay, they're coming out for their second attempts. One of the Mercs way off up the road already, as they were last time actually, but a Ferrari's coming. Between them this time round, there's a McLaren. Paris coming out. We'll wait for Verstappen to get out and significantly up this pit lane so we don't accidentally send Pierre out in front of him again, as happened a couple of races ago. There's an Alpine just for good measure. The Alpine, I should say. There's only Alonso left. But yeah, Pierre's going to be last on the track behind the other Ferrari, which is Sainz in this case. Shouldn't be any issues getting across the line, and indeed we don't. On board with Pierre to see what you can do. Obviously, every sector is going to be a faster sector because he hasn't done a time. It'd be lovely to see what the sector times were, just to give us a vague indication of where he might be in respect to other people. It'd be fascinating to actually, in next year's game, hopefully they might introduce the metrics to show, make qualifying that little bit more interactive. Like in the real world qualifying, they tend to sort of put up the marker point for, being knocked out of a session to the car in 15th in Q1, the car in 10th in Q2, or in, Q3, like the time that's ahead of them or even the leader if they're trying to take pole. It would be nice to be able to sort of compare Pierre's time to Alonso's previous best time right now, especially as we can't see anything at all right now. But Russell's crossed the line and stayed 5th down the main straight for Pierre. Heading towards the second sector is the Battle 102 at this stage. I have no idea what that means because, like I say, I can't compare it to anything. But so far, everyone has crossed the line and stayed essentially where they were. Norris hasn't improved, weirdly. So Norris behind Ricciardo. I don't think anyone's improved their time, which is wild. Sainz across the line, Alonso across the line. Nobody's improved their time. Gasly put in a time that was worthy of 7th and only 66 hundredths behind Sainz. Gasly, if he didn't have the penalties, would have been potent here. And don't forget, Max does have penalties. So Mick will start 11th. Just going to get the time considerations in ahead of time here. Average pit lane time lost 22 seconds, but green flag about 20 seconds. 14 seconds for a safety car. And we had 2 safety car deployments in one of the last 3 years, which might be last year. Obviously a very big incident in real life here involving Alonso and an Aston Martin, but pretty much all the strategies say mediums and hards. That's just purely because of the degradation rates. So we are expecting 2 stops from literally every strategy here. Compound performance. It is about 4/10 on an average lap overall, but it's all about that lap length. Stint length, I should say, not lap length. So Mick can use a soft tyre because he's got one full fresh set. And I might just do that. So soft to medium to hard, apparently slower. Just probably because they've got to extend these two stints into a territory they don't want to. Pierre from the back of the grid. Do we want him to get places as soon as possible? Obviously, medium, hard is not going to be really any different to medium. In fact, I'm going to pull both of those stints back one lap because he's got to be able to push on lap one, basically, is what I'm thinking there. Should be on the right for this. Oh, that's why. It's because the strategy plans are absolute nonsense. If I was to put this in effectively the right lap, which would be about there, it'd be kind of very much pushing it, but Mick's not bad on his tyres. In theory, it's still faster to be other way around. Okay. On the assumption they won't be in the same place, I will pull both his stints back one lap. In fact, he might be pushing harder from the start. Get the undercut.
It's lights out and away we go.
Perez leading from the front, of course, because of Verstappen's penalty, which was a back of the grid penalty as well. So all four people who had penalties were going to the back of the grid. So Magnussen and Stroll stay behind Pierre from the off. He starts 18th. Probably should have done the bonus, now I think about it, for the race to get positions here, because there's no way in hell Pierre finishes that far down unless he, of course, crashes again. And Mick's already taken Ocon off the line, basically. So Mick up to 10th, although he is fighting Ocon every step of the way here. He's got the advantage going into this corner, but Bottas might prove to be a problem, just in the sense that he's just literally blocking the path. So cheers for that, Valtteri. I know you're fighting McLaren, kind of, but they're 6th and 7th, so good luck with that. And Gasly remains 18th for now. Doohan might be broken as a vehicle, so this should be easy pickings for Pierre. He was slowest of all, and like notably slowest of all here, so... Oh, someone's locked up ahead. It's the other AlphaTauri's involved. Is that safety car lap 1? It is safety car lap 1. Tsunoda out, Albon punished. Well, obviously we ignore. There's nothing we can do about this. After admiring the relatively minor safety car rate here, won immediately. And this is why I don't always come straight in, because there's... Sometimes things happen off the first lap. So, I mean, ironically, Albon's going to get away with this probably, because he's going to probably pull into the pits if he needs a, wing change, which he does. And he'll probably be able to get caught up again. So a very disappointing first lap, actually, all things considered. Anyone doing soft, medium, hard? A few people doing soft, medium, hard, especially off those, especially in the top 10, surprisingly, with used softs. Like, Zhou's the only one that really could get away with this, because, it does mean we get another lap of full deployment, basically. I don't know if I can go that aggressive on the tyres, however. Right, so we will be waiting for Albon to get caught up. And we've only kind of done one full lap with the safety car by the end of this lap anyway. So I don't know if they have to almost like mandatory do one full lap. I think we don't need to push Gasly's tyres at all here. I've not had the safety cars coming in warning. So Albon's about to get caught up. Has very much got away with his crash there. We didn't see it again. I think I missed the notification, but safety car will absolutely be coming in this lap, so let's just get through this lap real quick. There we are. Okay, so safety car's running away. This is our moment to flip. I will push Mick's tyres for at least a few corners to see if he can get something, but I won't push Gasly's tyres because he's coming in one lap later. I will bring him to standard though. Nearly missed that bit. Okay, so normal racing. We'll actually focus on Mick because he's further up the train already. Everyone's spreading out for that first corner as Perez goes for it. Come on, Mick. Get the drive. I can't really see where Ocon is because he's on the opposite side of the track here in, comparison to Mick. Interesting line choices from some of them. How have you failed to get past him there? Come on, Pierre. I mean, that's the place to overtake, obviously. Good. That's the very slow Doohan out of the way. There's Valtteri Bottas on the side of the road. That's just a yellow flag because it's the only thing of note really for our driver so far. It's a lovely overtake. It's a lovely overtake. I can see Max Verstappen trying to take the Williams ahead as well. So that's good news.
Position there.
Valtteri just on the side of the road up at the end of that. So Max cleared the Williams as well, which is good news because it means we don't have to wait for Max to do that first now. So Mick's on the back of Ocon, who... Did he have Bottas between him and Alonso? Because there's a gap between them two. So I'm wondering if he had to get out of the way of Valtteri having a moment. But Mick's on the inside of Esteban and maintaining position going into the right-hand bend, but should have it by the time he gets onto the inside, and he's going to have to come off now. Those tyres are already burning their way through. Because of the incident with Valtteri, I'm suspecting we might have an issue with DRS unless one of these is slow enough for Mick to get caught up. It might be worth keeping him deploying on ERS for another lap. In fact, Gasly got Zhou at some point there. I'm guessing on that main straight as well. I didn't see that notification, but we'll take off the deployment for now for Gasly. As Verstappen's trying to clear Vettel. We'll let him do that first. Don't make Verstappen try and defend Pierre. Just let Verstappen clear Vettel, and then you can do the same. Esteban struggling to keep on to the back of Mick, weirdly. He's almost a full second behind Mick. Not that DRS is activated yet, but I don't think I need to deploy with Mick. He's within a second of Alonso. All right, so Verstappen, I need you to take Sebastian now. Come on, Max. What are you doing, Max? I don't know if Ocon's got an issue here. He's really struggling to keep up for whatever reason. Vettel's even struggling to keep up with him. So when DRS is activated, we'll have that. But we don't get that to the next main straight.
DRS will be active.
Max having a sniff at Sebastian there at the very end of that lap, but hasn't gone for it yet. I was trying not to put it on too fast a speed there, just because I was slightly, want to make sure Mick doesn't accidentally just randomly end up a full second behind anyone. So with DRS, Verstappen clears Vettel easily. That's good, which means Gasly will hopefully do it next time. I believe there's DRS on the main straight, the pit straight. There is. Doesn't help Gasly get past Vettel, however. Alonso and Norris seem to be swapping places ahead of Mick, and Ocon didn't fall out of a full second in regards to DRS, unfortunately. But Gasly's turn to, whoa, sweep round the outside of Sebastian there. Sorry, cut into that a little bit too late. We might do that one on the replay. It looked lovely. Alonso takes Norris again. So it looks like they're going to be swapping places. There's been an incident. Oh, it's Alonso, actually, who's decided to park on the side of the road for now. I didn't want to watch that. I wanted to watch the overtake, which I think was the notification before that. Oh, that's Gasly Alonso. What an overtake. Sublime overtaking from Pierre there. Why is that a highlight? Crofty way too excited about that. So Mick up to 8th now, and the one immediately challenging Norris, who struggled to keep up with his teammate. And actually, Mick got Norris on the main straight, the pit straight. I did this last year, didn't I? Right. Pit straight and main straight. They're two separate straights. We're just going to address that right now. Pit straight is the pit straight. Main straight is the big long one. I mean, it's well worth maybe looking at that, but they're going to take it back again at some point. In fact, it wouldn't be a bad idea if Norris overtook Mick now. But it'd be pretty solid, actually, if Mick could sort of hold this trade up a little bit, just so we can get in, Gasly in range. But Norris will take him back here. Easy, I imagine. Although he's not really putting his car in a position to do so. But I suspect they'll alternate a little bit over the next few laps. First pitters in, I think they're the soft runners, including Zhou, which is slightly odd because he actually had the best soft tyres of anyone. Not affecting anyone, Gasly's got into this straight, along with Vettel actually. The Hasses have improved seemingly this weekend. But on lap 10, it's Mick into 5th temporarily. Obviously everyone needs to do 2 pit stops, so bear that in mind in regards to Russell and Ricciardo. But their middle stints are probably going to be a bit long now, I guess. So by the end of their hard stint here, their tyres are going to be questionable. Medium stint, sorry. Their tyres are going to be questionable. But yeah, Mick has no chance of getting in touch with these McLaren, Mercedes, and 2 Ferraris, although I think 2 of them will pick because they're on softs, aren't they? Yeah. So Perez and Sainz might be on the same strategy. I don't know who's doing medium, medium, hard, and who's doing medium, hard, medium yet, because those pit stops haven't happened, but it's only the softs we know because they were obvious from the start. But making 5th, 10 seconds off the lead as things stand. We're not going for that, obviously, but there goes Hamilton and Leclerc, leaving Sainz on his Todd. So Mick will be temporarily 3rd. Still fighting Norris, of course. Okay, well, I can't really push that fuel on Mick too much further, which means he's probably immediately going to lose out to Norris here. And hopefully he can just keep sort of in range of Norris until his pit stop, which is in about 5 laps' time. I mean, there's an argument here for, as Verstappen's falling out of a second, Vettel's falling out a second. There's an argument here to sort of harvest with Pierre a little bit, because he's not getting past Verstappen. He's going to have DRS on this straight regardless. So that'll keep him within a second of the train. Mick's the one holding this train up to begin with, and he's charged up. So hopefully by the time we get to the detection point, he'll be back within a second again. I mean, he's on the edge, but I don't think he actually got it on that lap, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Seb's going to have a look because he did have DRS on him, but looks like Norris got Mick. So the pit window's in 1 lap. You can see what I mean about Mick being bound on his tyres. I pushed him off the safety car restart. He was 3% worse off after that first lap, after the safety car. And now he's only 1% worse than Gasly, who's literally about 2 seconds behind him on the road. So I can actually attack with Mick's tyres for these next 3 laps. Alonso's in the pit now. He's gone in early by the looks of things, compared to everyone else. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're both worse than everyone else right now in total. But actually, I'm a little surprised Alonso's gone now. Medium, medium, hard. I suppose medium, medium, hard might pit earlier. I'd have thought he'd pit around the same time, but yeah, so losing about 5% a lap, this should bring him out basically at the right point. Can't really do Gasly just yet. So Mick's got to, we'll watch one of these overtakes because he's coming back again on the main straight by the looks of things on the inside. I mean, Mick's being competitive with a McLaren that's vastly improved over recent weeks, so that's good to see from Mick in terms of race pace. you know, and holding them up as much as possible before we have pit stops is actually kind of helpful. So Perez is pitted now. I think I may have accidentally pushed Mick's tyres too early there. So Mick's temporarily second. He's got both of the Red Bulls behind him briefly. We'll watch Mick's pit stop. Gasly crossing the line will probably trigger his optimal pit stop notification. It does. So Sainz in the pits, Verstappen in the pits, Bottas in the pits. We don't have to wait for Bottas seemingly. He comes out behind Verstappen, which is expected. In fact, there was a long train of vehicles there that were very close together on the road, it seems. But Verstappen and Mick come out reasonably behind them all. Mick comes out ahead of Norris, who I don't know when he pitted, probably a lap earlier. And Ocon's about a second behind Norris, so I don't know whether he's going to have DRS because he's going to be very close there. But unfortunately, Mick's come out a full second and a half behind Verstappen. We'll get Gasly to deploy through this last sector just to see if that helps at all. We did have an extra bit of battery just to utilise there. We'll take push off Mick's tyres as he rounds that last corner. A 2.4 second pit stop for Gasly as the camera can't even keep up with that. Vettel's coming in the pit behind him. The gap to Vettel increased dramatically there. So Gasly's come out ahead of Ocon. Maybe deploying in that last sector was super worthwhile. He's got ahead of somebody in that train. We don't need to really push him right now just because we've got a sandwich on Norris. Actually, with that in mind, we probably don't need to push actually his tyres at all because he's come out exactly where we need him to. Albon, of course, pitted super early because of his crash, so he's on hards from effectively lap 2. We're one of 2 people doing medium, hard, medium. So we're going to be on the mediums at the end and everyone else is going to be on the hards. Fascinating. And Hamilton's mediums, well, these are all the people that started on softs, aren't they? So that's interesting. Max is actually fighting with Vettel now because of that as well. Verstappen does fastest lap, gets past Albon. I mean, you'd think Mick would be catching Albon right now, but that doesn't appear. Oh, it is the case. Actually, he's closing in quite quickly. I guess Albon might have had DRS for maybe one straight, and that kept the gap up a little bit. But I'm not going to do team orders here unless Mick struggles to keep up. With DRS, there's a brief yellow flag, but it's not really affected anything. It was Magnussen. Okay, so Mick sort of drifts to maybe about 8 tenths, but with DRS, he's going to sort of stay well within range of Norris. And as a unit, we are closing in on Albon. I suspect Albon's going to be a problem here, actually, because it's all about who gets through him as quickly as possible, unless he pits, of course. Our train has caught Albon now, so it's about basically how quickly and cleanly can we overtake Albon on those super old hards that he's on. So Norris deals with him immediately, of course, so hopefully Mick can get him on the next straight, because Norris is going to run away here, and as soon as he does that, problem. Albon stays within DRS range, I think, for his own benefit, but that might not be that's not the person who's trying to overtake. Yeah, so Albon's outside of a second now. Get him, Mick. Mick. Get him. Get him. I mean, he's behind by the detection point, and he's got him by the before he's even deployed there, which means Gasly might get him as well for good measure. He doesn't. Oh, doing another lockup. That's what that was. But Mick is unfortunately 1.6 seconds behind Norris now, so I don't know how that's going to affect things. I think Gasly was trying to defend from Ocon whilst trying to overtake, and it did not work out. Yes, indeed, Albon was in fact a problem. And actually, Pierre's done exactly the same thing Mick did. Overtook him before the detection point, overtook him after the detection point, but still had DRS. And is 9 tenths ahead of him by the end of that straight. Just going to see if I can get Mick within a second of Norris again. Oh, I can. I've used all of his battery to do so, but we've left Ocon behind, thanks to Albon, who has now finally pitted as well. That's good. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to get that battery back from Mick, but we'll cross that bridge. Just keeping Norris honest is probably the main thing here, especially as they're on the tyre advantage right now. We're going to be having the better tyres on the reverse. In fact, Mick's actually fighting Norris quite handily here, which hopefully will actually hold him up for the purposes of Gasly in a moment as well. Did have to push the fuel briefly there as well, but hopefully we'll get that back. Gasly's got his 0.5 back effectively by lap 20. He'll have it back by about lap 30, so they're going to fight each other for a little bit. Gasly will hopefully get within the second just to make that a train. I do have to consider swapping Gasly and Mick, but Alonso's in the pit again on lap 29. That seems very early. If I harvest with Mick, Gasly might just overtake naturally. He does. I might need to neutral him actually here briefly though, just so he doesn't fall out of the range of Pierre. There's been an incident. I don't think it affects our race. It was Vettel. So Mick's got a bit of charge again briefly, as Gasly's overtaken Norris, and now Norris has actually disappeared up the road. So Mick's kind of lost a second on Gasly now because the car that was splitting him for DRS purposes has now pitted on lap 32. I suspect this +9 is wrong because I think that's Hamilton directly behind him. It is. And Mick's actually not that far off, but we've kind of got to hope that these people who've pitted now are going to get held up in traffic here because it's 7 more laps until Mick pits, 8 more laps until Gasly pits, and then we're going to be on mediums. So Hamilton splits us too, which could be helpful for Mick because he'll get DRS up the pit straight at least, probably. He does. So that'll help pull him into Gasly a little bit as Mick ends up in the title fight, in the fight for first. Verstappen coming out just under a second ahead of him, and Sainz coming out behind him. Oh dear. Apologies to Carlos there. We are going to ruin your... I mean, although Gasly's ahead of Verstappen and Hamilton. Perez is 18 seconds up the road. Albon's gone off. Gasly getting useful DRS off a faster car right now as well. Perez does fastest lap, but Gasly's going to have DRS on Hamilton, and Verstappen's still probably going to try and overtake him here anyway. Sainz somehow doesn't get past Mick. God knows how. Norris didn't get held up on Vettel anywhere near as much as I hoped he would. But 5 more laps until Mick pits, and he's on 53% tyres. I can't push those. Okay, so Verstappen's got Gasly, but Gasly still has DRS on both of these two for now, so that's useful. Verstappen's going to get Hamilton. Don't forget Verstappen started 17th, and he's now second, legitimately. Yep, real life is happening in the game, although they're actually fighting each other, which might give Gasly DRS on the pit straight again. Thanks for that, guys. A nice Hamilton-Verstappen fight always goes down well and helps our DRS and overall race length, I guess, race time. Because we've got to try and get out ahead of Norris, who is currently only 18 seconds behind. Okay, but he is on hards. I need to let Sainz through, really, because... Oh, he already has. I was kind of hoping he stayed within a second, even by harvesting, but I think that's the sector where they actually use their ERS, sorry. One day I'll get that right. So we'll harvest up with Mick, because he's kind of in a bit of no man's land right now. Mick's ended up at the back of a train here. Gasly's lost out of Sainz, and the overall time to Norris is actually evaporated here, but it will come back to us, as both drivers actually have DRS for the time being, as we're being pulled along by faster vehicles temporarily. So in theory, we should have a massive advantage. Yeah, so this is the pit lap for Mick, which I realised almost didn't actually happen there. And I need to do the same with Gasly. I know he's on 40% tyres already, but we'll just push him this lap regardless. So Mick's in the pits. He's going to end up massively behind a bunch of people here, and he's going to have to fight his way through temporarily, because Norris has nearly already got caught up here on his hards somehow. So Norris is through, alarmingly already. Alonso is through. Albon's pitted anyway, so that's fine. And as long as Mick gets out ahead of the Haas here, we might be all right. He doesn't. Bollocks. And I can't push these tyres. Issue in Sector 1 is not a safety car issue. Don't even know who it was. Vettel. Oh, it didn't even affect anyone. He's literally up on the road ahead of me and it didn't even affect anything. We'll stick Mick on overtake. See if we can get anyone here. I think the problem is there's multiple people trying to overtake multiple people here. So for Gasly's sake, let's see where he comes out. Obviously, there's a few people faster directly behind him on the road. Mick coming around these final corners. Vettel pits, which is actually really good news because it means Bottas is the only one. Gasly's out in 10th and about 6 seconds behind Norris. Isn't overall that bad. Yeah, about 6 seconds behind Norris. So got to hunt him down, and we can actually push his tyres a smidge. So we'll deploy him a little bit on his outlap, just to get him in range of Alonso's ERS for now, DRS. We'll get him within that second, and then pull him off that. So is that enough to get Mick past Bottas already? No, it isn't. We'll stick him on overtake and see if that will get him past Bottas, because we need that to happen. In fact, we probably shouldn't go super fast that way, because Gasly wasn't trying to get Alonso. Mick did get Bottas behind, and now full deploy. Oh, he's still pushing his tyres. Whoops. Full deploy to get within Ocon's DRS range. Just put Pierre on that fight there to see if he can get past him. I mean, that's not how you overtake, is it, Pierre? You don't put one wheel inside his wheel. That physically won't go, will it? So Mick's within range now, so that's good news. So we'll leave that there for now. Did kind of forget about Verstappen in the grand scheme of things when trying to plan this race out, because obviously he was going to come through and finish ahead of everyone. You're not even pushing the tyres. I don't know how they're getting warm. Pierre, do you know how to overtake? Because you're not doing it right now. Oh, now you are. Blimey, that was a weird place to do it. Actually, still push that fuel for now. Just full deploy. Try and get Alonso out that second if you can, just to make sure that's not a fight going forward. Mick's take a knock on ahead. Behind, sorry. All right, so Gasly does fastest lap because of course he does. All right, so I need Mick to get called out to Alonso here, which isn't really going to happen. So I might just push the fuel because I can't really push ERS right now with Mick. Okay, that's as far as I can push Gasly's fuel. Just a brief deploy with Mick. Get him outside, get Ocon outside of that second for now. Get that fuel out. Just a brief deploy with Gasly again to get him within a second of Norris, and I think he is. So we'll join this fight with Gasly and Norris because it's a fight. Ricciardo being 10 seconds ahead of Norris is wild, though. I was expecting a little bit more from this car post this under the floor, but the fact that Gasly's come from the back of the grid to finish here is incredible work. That first safety car actually really helped bunch things back up again, because they were threatened to spread out, of course, with the slower drivers holding us up at the back. Just gave us that, basically, that second opportunity to have another go at them. That's it, Gasly. Learn how to overtake, please. I'll see if Mick's actually closing on Alonso before I decide to do anything. I think he is, slowly. Yeah, he is. In fact, he's now in DRS range of Alonso as Gasly cleared Norris, and I didn't get a notification of that. That sounded like a proper crash behind. It was a proper crash behind. Oh, they've just... Who's crashed? Is it Russell? That wouldn't be a crash behind. Oh, I can see it, actually. It's either Bottas or Stroll. I think it's actually Bottas. It sounded like that corner anyway. And I can just see the fringes of an Alfa Romeo circle there. So how close to the end of the race were we? We were about 8 laps, weren't we? Yeah, about 8 laps. So that's basically the usefulness of one of these soft sets of tyres to begin with. So yeah, these medium tyres are actually got more lifetime in them. So I can't pit anyone. What this does do is put Gasly on the back of Ricciardo. It was Bottas. Is it the Haas hitting him? Or is it just Bottas of his own accord doing that? Interesting. It'll allow Mick to harvest up as well. Does obviously put Norris on the back of Gasly again, but what we lose to Norris here, effectively we gain with Ricciardo. Yep. And we've not caught up yet, so that's quite fun. So safety car will go around one more time, and we're in the train now, and we've got a full kilogram up, actually. Lap cars may now overtake, which is both Alpha Tauris, I think, and that's it. They're not having a good race, clearly. Our safety car will be in this lap, and the Williams of Zhou hasn't even caught up, let alone the Alpha Tauris, who are weirdly fighting each other right now in their attempt to get back. I just realised Gasly's still on driving clean air because I was trying to get him to overtake, which actually might be useful here, to be fair. Okay, so safety car's running away. Time to deploy, time to full push. We'll leave the tyres as is because we don't really want to burn them. 1 extra kilogram's worth of fuel right now. Burn it all. And Ricciardo suddenly has to look over his shoulder again. 10 seconds up the road last time before that safety car. Now he's got to think about his race as he's got a vehicle on with better tyres behind him. And Pierre's already positioned himself to be on the outside, I think. Although Norris has taken the inside of him instead. I mean, that's not great work from Pierre. What on earth happened there from Pierre? Why did he drive like that? I mean, at least Mick didn't make the same mistake. It was just his choice of position. For some reason, he was not an imbecile there. Some of these hard tyres are getting into dangerous territory, but there's only 4 more laps to go. 5 more laps, inclusive, of course. Alonso and Mick are side by side. For a second there, I thought Mick was being overtaken, but it was actually the other way around. Mick into the points, having started 11th, but with Verstappen and Gasly behind. Those 2 drivers have got through him now, so he is legitimately up 3 places again. We'll watch that because we've not had too many highlights involving our drivers. Just on the outside. Nice bit of work there. And our driver's line astern again. It's a little bit Noah's Ark. Just the Ferrari splitting the 2 Mercs. Otherwise, it would be 2x2 up to 12th, although Stroll's taking Ocon because why the hell not, I guess. I'll put him on overtake rather than just straight up deploy. Save that extra little bit for now. Pierre trying to go around the outside of Norris. We'll see if this plays off. Pierre, thank you. Your turn. It's a great move, actually. I didn't come back, so we'll watch this one anyway. We'll watch it in 1 time speed because I did that on 2 times speed. Just sticks up the inside. It's like, hi, Lando. Bye, Lando. He did, actually. For once, Crofty's commentary is bang on the money. Meanwhile, actually, Mick got him as well. All right, so we'll get Pierre to try and take Daniel now. We'll utilise this as overtake. I mean, Pierre's going for it even before the DRS line. Not that DRS is active yet, anyway, so this is actually really good timing to do this because no one's going to be able to fight back. Okay, so he's passed. And now, Pierre, drive away, please. Just drive away. Lando Lundgren made an absolute hash of that. I saw that in 2 times speed. It was quite funny. I'm on having to pit again, which is a bit awkward. I didn't come back again, I just realised, but this could have been horrific. What was Lando doing there? And then he took both his teammate and Mick out and ended up actually holding up the Alpines, which is even better news for us. But I'll come back in this time. I'll actually remember to do it. A lot of action happening at the end here. Pierre sidling up to the back of the fight at the front, actually. Mick, indeed, has also taken Ricciardo now. But this might be a little bit more back and forth just because they are a tad separated. Although, actually, I think they've all got DRS. Gasly's actually in this fight, but I think there's too many drivers here to actually... We'll go 1 times on the last couple of laps here. But I think there's too many drivers here. I think someone's really struggling on their tyres. Yeah, they're all really struggling on their hard tyres. Mick didn't actually get DRS there, but Ricciardo's fallen off on his own tyres. I mean, last lap, we might as well go full deploy there, as everyone gets into DRS range. As I click the wrong buttons again. Just tell Mick not to fight, just in case that becomes a thing. Just in case Pierre wants to have a go at one of these drivers ahead. Yeah, he's sort of vaguely getting in a position to do so, but at the same time, not at all. Pierre, come on. Ooh, he's really making Leclerc think about it, but I think it's going to be no dice by the end of this lap. The strategy worked out at the end. I was marginally concerned for a bit. Pierre on the inside. Final corner antics again. Pierre is behind by the line, apparently. Although he did look side by side to me. 18th to 7th. 18th and 7th for Pierre, 13th and 8th for Mick is not awful when you think about it. 18th and 13th with both Pierre and Verstappen getting through from their penalties. Sorry, technically started 11th with 2 people coming through, so it's effectively still 13th to 8th. Pole race for Alpine in the end, they get no points. Just has to wait for the AlphaTauris to go across the line there. I mean, he didn't get past Sergio in the end, but Max really held up by that safety car at the end when you think about it, but only just ended up behind his teammate. He nearly went from 17th to 1st, but settles for 2nd. Pierre gets another fastest lap, and he's in 7th, so he gets that point as well. Mick picks up a nice little 4 points, and Esteban Ocon gets nothing, which is important there. Lance Stroll actually goes up 8 places, remarkably. Because drivers-wise, Mick is now only 7 behind Esteban. Pierre keeps in touch with those drivers ahead of him, but they all get some benefit on him. Constructors-wise, 1,000 points for Pierre, 1,200 for Mick. Caldwell still exists. Both drivers get their bonuses, but another 3 million in the bank. So Pierre will get a development point next race. Mick will get probably another development point next race. I can't wait to get all of his main stats up to 80. So a new ATR period, and that was exceeding. I think we've actually got all 3... Yeah, we've all got all 3 projects coming, but 2 of them will get done within a week. So we'll use that new ATR period to get something else before the end of the season, hopefully. But the Mexican Grand Prix actually happens before we actually sort anything out. So Mexican Grand Prix next weekend. In-game, holding firm, nicely equidistant between Mercedes and Alpine still. So hopefully next season we can make a big step forward, be fighting with those Red Bulls, Ferraris, Mercedes, hopefully, the very least Mercedes, I would hope. But I'll pop back into the middle for now. Thank you for joining me for another race. That one a little bit more like it, actually. Unfortunately, our step forward seems to have been matched by literally everyone else that we're kind of in the same ballpark as, the McLarens and the Mercedes, most specifically, seem to have improved exactly the same amount last weekend as well, kind of. So, unfortunately, what was looking to be like a really exciting last 5 races for us with that big step forward for our car, I think it's been vaguely matched by others. So, that's a bit of a shame. But both drivers in the points now is a better overall improvement over some races recently, particularly that sort of middle second half. Getting Mick into those points, super important, and hopefully we can get him at least ahead of Esteban Ocon in the drivers. Pierre, I think, might have to settle for 6th now in the drivers because the other 5 drivers in that fight are now in cars that are noticeably faster than ours, annoyingly. But thank you for joining me. We'll be back for Mexico next time out. Only 3 races to go. I should mention right now, with 3 races to go, next week, we're going to do all 3 of them, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So be on the lookout for that. And then the following week, we'll hopefully get session 0, i.e. the off-season, and then the first 2 races done. So in theory, hopefully we'll get 3 races out in the next 2 weeks. And then we'll be back to 2 a week for the time being, I would imagine. But I've enjoyed the support on these videos of late, so thank you for that. I will see you very soon. Like, comment, subscribe. Do help that out, of course. Until next time, ta-ra.